Cold Beer here. Welcome back. Matthew Jaware here at the Cold Beer here pod, here with Tilly, and we're keeping it in the family tonight. Head brewer from Bay Cannon Beer Company, Joe Simmons. What's happening, fellas?
What's going on?
Cheers.
Yeah, we're excited to have you on here tonight, Joe. I'm going to ask you some questions, actually, that I don't know the answer to. I'm looking forward to that.
Okay.
But for all those listening that don't know, we'll get started just sort of with an intro and talking about your journey into beer, what got you there, and what got you here.
Sounds good.
Yeah. You can go ahead and start from the beginning.
Oh man, from the beginning. Every time anyone
when my
ever
mom
says
met
that,
my dad. No.
We don't have that much time, man.
Anytime anyone ever says, "Oh, so just start from the beginning," the first thing that pops into my head is that scene from Goonies where Chunk is about to get his fingers. He's like, "First, my sister." You're like, "Oh, dude!" Every time, without fail, that's what I see and hear.
We accept all Goonies references here at the Cold Beer here pod.
Yes,
at all time.
Yes.
So
absolutely.
Start from the beginning. All right, I was let's go 2011, 2012. 2012. I had just graduated. Well, excuse me. I was about to transfer from a community college to a university. And at the same time, I got an email that said, "Hey, your name has come up and your application is the next in line to go to World Brewing Academy, Siebel Institute, which is a brewing school." So
a good one.
Yeah, it's pretty rad. So I decided to forego transferring to university and work on my electrical engineering degree because that's what I was doing, but we all know I wasn't going to make it. I didn't do that. I headed out to Chicago and then Germany and spent a better part of a year training and learning how to brew professionally. I had been a home brewer for probably 6 or 7 years before that, for quite some time. And I got bit by the bug, and I was like, man, it would be awesome to turn this into a profession someday. Like every home brewer probably thinks that. And then an opportunity came up. I was like, I'm just gonna throw in a thing and I'll fill out an application. And it was like, oh, there's this big wait list. I was like, oh, we'll see what happens. And it just so it happened, and I was like, okay, let me go. I came back from that incredible experience. I made so many great friends and met so many people that have been instrumental to me in the industry since, and that I still call on to this very day for questions that I don't have an answer to, that, some guys work at way bigger breweries than I do and see all sorts of different things than I do and have answers for those questions. And it's like, man, that's awesome. Like I have this really great network that I'm a part of now, which is in itself invaluable. So when I got back from that trip, I wasn't ready to move. A lot of guys ended up moving from where they were because while we were in Germany and in Europe, guys had interviews at breweries back in the States or back wherever they were, like even before we graduated. And like, man, I got a job, but I won't be back in stateside for another 2 weeks. But that's awesome. Like, cause people were just getting hired left and right. So I wasn't ready to move. So I didn't take any of the offers that I had. 2 interviews. I did with Lagunitas. Lagunitas was about to open their Chicago location. And then Goose Island was also in Chicago. So those were 2 places that I spoke with, and I just wasn't ready to move. So there was a brewery in Gainesville that opened in 2009. Yeah, called Swamphead.
Mm-hmm.
So I reached out to them and I was like, hey, like, actually what happened is there's a restaurant in town called The Top. I'm sure if you live in Gainesville, you know of it. I'm good friends with those guys, and I've been close with them for a long time. And they were having a beer dinner with The Top, with Swamphead. And they asked me, they're like, you know a lot about beer. You've worked in our kitchen for a long time. Can you kind of host this and be like a liaison for the brewery and the restaurant and kind of like introduce the pairings? So that evening I introduced the pairings, what the kitchen had made and what Swamphead had brought. And at the end of the night, I spoke to Luke, who's the owner, and I was like, hey man, I know you're a small brewery. I don't know if you have any space, but I just came back from Siebel. I'm ready to do this brewing thing. Let me know. And he's like, oh, okay. He's like, I don't know if he like took me seriously or at the moment, but he's like, let me get your number. He gave me a number. Probably 2 days later, he called me. He's like, listen, I got a job for you. You're probably way overqualified, but I got a job. And I was like, I'll take it. So I went in there. This is the original Swamphead location, which is probably, it's 3 warehouse bays out by the highway.
It's all been torn down now.
Yeah, it is now an overpass. It was, real, just kind of out there, real small. You got 20 people in the tasting room, and it was packed. So I went there, and I was like, he's like, here, let me show you around. There's only 3 people in production. There's Craig, who's the head brewer. There's Nick, who's the lead brewer, and Dan, who's the other lead brewer. We all kind of do everything. But we would need you to wash kegs. I was like, I'll do it, man, whatever. So I started washing kegs, and about a year and a half later, I found myself being the lead brewer, because people had left, whatnot. And then Nick became the director of operations, and I was the head brewer, lead brewer, brewing all the beer at that point. And then helped Swamphead build the new facility that they're in now, the big 30-barrel system, nice new location built from the ground up. And then at some point along the way, Matthew Joer here had contacted me through Facebook because he worked at a brewery in Minneapolis.
By the way, that's for all you Zoomers out there. That's a website that us older people use and used to use to keep track of our family members and other people from high school that we never talked to. So just to give some background on what Facebook is for the younger folks out there.
Correct.
I jumped ship. I'm no longer on it.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Yeah. I was like, I got to get out of this. Why am I friends with 500 people from high school that I didn't like? I
actually deleted my account and remade a new one so I could have like the 50 people I actually care about, like family and in real life, actually on there, because
I was living blissfully
don't need to
with the deleted account when I realized that Facebook still has not upgraded their software enough to allow you to open a business page by itself.
It's brutal, dude.
I had to reopen mine.
It sucks.
To get the fake-handed one on.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So,
okay, keep going.
Anyway.
So Matthew Joer had messaged me because, like I said, we had mutual friend, the brewer at the head was Austin head brewer at that point.
Yep.
The head brewer at the brewery that Matt worked at was a schoolmate of mine. We went to Siebel together. So Matthew's like, I'm going to open a brewery in Florida. Austin was like, yeah, get in touch with this dude. He's down there. So he did. But that secret mailbox that no one ever found until like 4 years later, that all these like crazy messages went to on Facebook.
Like if you weren't already friends or something.
Yeah. It didn't
request folder.
Yeah, but like no one never knew where you're like, what is this random folder here? You're like, oh, look at all these messages that I have.
Where are these red numbers above this certain thing? It's probably nothing. I'll just ignore that for now.
Exactly. So I clicked on it one day. I was like, all right, let me see. And I was like, who's this? hey, I'm opening a brewery, and Austin said I should get in touch with you. I was like, what is this all about? So I wrote him back, and then we linked up. He came through Gainesville and came by the brewery, and was like, hey man, like, I'm opening this brewery in Tampa and looking for brewers, and I know you got a gig here, but if you know of anyone that's looking for something, blah 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 blah, and let me know. And then we kind of kept in touch, and then because you had a guy or two.
There was a guy that was committed that didn't. Well, this is so funny now, knowing that what you do to get to work.
Yeah.
He was in Sarasota. He came from Highland Park in California. That awesome brewery. He's a good brewer. Actually, I think he's a brewer now in like Georgia. I think he left already, Sarasota. But he was committed, and then he got to Sarasota and didn't want to make the 1 hour and 15-minute drive to the brewery, and so that's why I reached back out to Joe. And the thing about this industry that's tough is if you I'm in Tampa or in the Bay Area, and you're trying to make friends with these people, introduce yourself, and then you're also trying to potentially poach their assistant brewers. We have an assistant brewer right now, and if someone poached her, I would be happy for her, right? Because this is just kind of how it's supposed to go.
Yeah.
You're supposed
You
to
have to
help
assume
these
if
people.
someone's getting poached, they're
Yeah.
moving into a greater position, which
Yeah.
everybody should want. Because honestly, I feel like in any business, if someone's getting poached from you, and they're not like actively like, throwing like all the feelers out to everybody in the world and like just get me the hell out of here type of like mentality.
Right.
If they're being poached from you, it's because you were a part of their journey.
Yeah.
You helped them along the way, and they're at this point where if your business isn't ready to or doesn't have the availability to give them this position, then they should go somewhere else where they can get it. And that seems like a good thing.
But it's tough. It doesn't.
We all want to be head brewers, man. It's like, it doesn't like everybody you start as a keg washer or whatever, or working on a canning line. You're like, you're in the beer industry for the most part because you probably home brewed for a little bit. If you're in production, you like beer, and you're like, man, like I would love to brew beer. And one of the first times me and Allie sat down about our assistant brewer is, I was like, listen, this is the job. This is what we need from you. These are the opportunities that we can give to you. But all I ask is that when you're ready to leave, because you will be ready to leave at some point, someone will come along and be like, hey, like we have a job for you that's a little bit, in title and in pay. That's a step above what you have now. I was like, when that comes, because it will probably come, just let me know. Give me enough advance notice that I can, get somebody else ready to come in behind you. And that's just part of our industry. And I actually want that for everybody. Because I started as a keg washer. Like, even though I had all this education and all this experience, I started as a keg washer. And I was like, man, like it's good. Like it's kind of just like, I want people to progress and like be the best and become the best and live up to the full potential that they have. So
I feel like it's kind of a little bit like college coaching, where you have your great assistants and you love to have those great assistants for as long as you can. But at some point, another program is going to come along and be like, hey, you're a position coach. How would you like to be defensive coordinator, or, be a position coach, but also have a co-defensive coordinator type of thing
And
it's exactly that. But coaching has embraced that. It is a part of the culture there. And, that's kind of what I was getting to, is it's like, it's not really in our industry. People get pissed. And so I was with Joe because he was at least 2 hours away. And so I'm like, hey, if you know anybody in your area, they may be willing to move to Tampa because it's not that far. Nah. But also, I know I'm not going to be, if somebody at First Magnitude or Swamphead is bitter at me, I don't have to see them, you know?
Yeah,
And
totally.
so that was kind of the way
Yeah.
that that's what I reached out to Joe for, because I was just like, dude, I'm going to end up talking to somebody that recommended another guy or gal 3 weeks ago. And now I'm talking to his assistant. I'm like, shit,
Yeah.
this isn't good,
Yeah.
you know? Yeah.
I mean, and I guess like some of what comes along with what you're talking about is how many small breweries there are out there that it's really like easy to take it personal, as opposed to probably some of the larger breweries out there that like people probably leave all the time and they're like, whatever, go ahead, do whatever you want.
Cigar City.
Because people are just lined up outside the door to fill that position.
Yeah.
Whereas like some of the smaller breweries, obviously y'all are a small brewery. So, but clearly it starts from the top. You have a different mentality about people leaving and taking better air quote positions. But there are some small ones out there that, and obviously personalities that are just like,
I get way more. I get way more butthurt. I get way more butthurt about folks' lack of creativity and just stealing other people's stuff. I'd rather somebody come take an employee because that person was great, or they want had a need for that person, than like just take all your ideas. It's like I would much rather that. I'm groomed. I'm more comfortable with that idea, and I think ultimately like Joe talked with Allie, I mean, if what she's trying to do can't happen at Bay Cannon and it can somewhere else, then like that's great.
Yeah,
then that's how it's supposed to go.
I like to think of it as also like if you don't get bitter, you don't burn bridges with people and then at some point in the future, you never know, someone may circle back around after reaching this level and be like, I still like this place.
Yeah.
Where I love Tampa. I love the city that I lived in. Let me just come back and then you'll have a person that was already in the culture of your business and they're just coming back. So,
Joe, you that was a tangent. So then
that was a tangent.
That's all right. but it's you had we started talking. You were still at Swamphead.
I was still at Swamphead because at that point, I mean, let's say it took 3 years from when we first spoke, when you were like, hey, I'm looking for brewers if you know anybody. I'm pretty sure it's a roughly 3 years. So we kept in touch and we were talking about stuff, and then and like for me, and then at one point we spoke, I was like, hey man, like it actually sounds like you have something cool maybe happening that you're trying to do. Like it's kind of speaking to me. I was like, maybe me and you should talk a little bit more about like what you're looking for.
I was like, yeah,
because my time at Swamphead was beginning to come to an end. For things happen, and I was like, man, mate, like like I'm ready to maybe like take the step to be a little bit more in control and a little bit more involved in something like that. So we started talking a little bit more, and for me, I mean, you were doing all of the business end and figuring out all that stuff, and you would loop me in a little bit here and there. And I was like, well, like, like I'm like, I don't know if it's really going to happen. Cause like these things, how many breweries have been like
in
planning
stage
for 15 years, and so I was like, talk with my wife. I was like, I don't know if it's really going to happen, but like, it seems promising. And then my time came to an end at Swamphead because it was just time to make a change. And I went over to First Magnitude for a little while, and which was a great experience as well. Everyone's great there. I love them.
It's my favorite brewery in Gainesville, by the way. But anyway, go ahead.
Great people. I love that spot. I also care deeply for everyone at Swamphead too, just in a different way. But so I was at First Magnitude, and then it things started to snowball at with Bay Cannon, and it was like, okay, this is actually going to happen. And then, Matthew called me. He's like, hey man, like, so I'm thinking by July we're going to need you to start coming down here. And I was like, oh shit. Okay. Let me start to put everything in order. And so I let everybody at First Mag know, and then I started traveling to Tampa, and we started building a brewery. And it was actually first couple trips to Tampa, we were looking at buildings that we eventually did not go into. And then we started building a brewery once we found a spot. One spot still has dirt floors, dude.
I know.
I don't understand. I drive by that thing. I'm like it was so promising. It was so
long ago.
It was so promising. And you're like, man, there is still not they haven't even finished it. But anyways. So
well, if you guys ever want to build one in Melrose, Florida, I got a spot for you. But it's a very expensive spot apparently. But
I want to hear you say the word incentives. Incentives. Say you have a lot of incentives.
The incentive is I live here, and I would spend
no. Municipal and financial incentives.
Oh, you don't mean Tilly incentives? Okay, fine. Nobody ever wants Tilly incentives.
Hey, Joe, it's a secret. It's on the internet, but it's a secret. I did email the mayor of Clearwater today.
Oh man.
They have historically had some potentially incentives. Sure. So I just figured I'd see.
To anybody that works for a city or a municipality, if you got incentives, I would love to talk to you.
Listen. Yeah, we boy, I tell you what. I mean, we bought a building, which is it's good business, but also there's other challenges there. And that process of finding a spot, holy cow. Landlords, like there's not one landlord that we ended up dealing with significantly. And we probably had LOIs on, I don't even know, 6 places that end up, and you're not even done with the process, that you end up liking. Like we didn't like them by the time we didn't even start. We didn't even get to start, and we didn't like them.
I think we had 5
LOIs.
Yeah. Cause I as we were going, I saved all that stuff. I think we had 5. I was like, sweet, we got an LOI. And you're like, and then at number 3, I was like, that doesn't mean shit.
No.
It doesn't mean anything.
Sometimes it was easy for us because you get the LOI, and then you can really see how the rubber's going to hit the road.
Yeah.
And you need that, like everybody wants a brewery in their building, but most don't understand it, or either they're willing to be flexible or not. And so you kind of have to get there, but
for sure.
Yeah, that was a mess. It's been a hell of a journey.
Yeah. It's a great location now. So y'all did a great job, obviously.
I mean,
tons of potential.
It's coming,
tons of potential.
Untapped potential so far still, but there's more to come.
You
had mentioned, actually, it was kind of a side note to your story at the beginning. You said you were home brewing for, however many years before you went to Siebel.
6-7 years.
What was the first beer you brewed on your homebrew system when you first got it?
It was a Fat Tire clone.
Oh,
wait, hang on. Yeah, it was a Fat Tire clone. It was a malty amber.
I remember when Fat Tire first finally made it down to Gainesville, like on tap, not just in bottles, but on tap.
People lost their fucking minds.
And it was a big ass deal. Like,
it was
in Gainesville, we're like, holy crap, we got Fat Tire on draft now. We don't just have to buy it out of bottles. We can get it like, and there were like whole like tap events occurring. Like, get Fat Tire. I was like, this is not like, looking back now. You're like, wow, that really wasn't like. I mean, it's good, and it's a good beer for like the style, but it's not like I'm losing my mind over this.
Everything is
kind
just
of
so
thing,
different
but like.
now, though.
But it was weird because like that was like towards the beginning, like, and Gainesville has a really well developed craft beer scene now, especially. Like I can go to a number of stores and find just such random like different stuff
Totally.
all over, like Gator Bev. You got Tipples and Crafty Bees Bottle Shop, which is underrated selection of beers for Gainesville, and then you got the big box stores, Total Wine, ABC, whatever. But so I remember that, and I don't think people believe me when I tell them that Fat Tire on draft was a big deal in Gainesville at a certain point in time. It was huge.
It was a giant deal. So I have a good buddy. He used to live in Gainesville, who has been a New Belgium Ranger for ever. He moved, like, I think he moved away. He graduated college and then didn't end up using his degree and moved to North Carolina.
As most of us do.
Exactly. Yeah. And he's like, oh, I sell beer now. Like, I'm a beer rep. I work for this brewery called New Belgium. I was like, holy shit, dude. And so I would like be in touch with him, and he's like, dude, like we can't even, like, it's going to be crazy. Like the whole thing. He's like, it's insane. Like when New Belgium came into Florida, he's like, it's bonkers, like absolutely bonkers.
The hype over Fat Tire, and that's ended up being national, obviously, reminds me a lot of the hype over Spotted Cow from New Glarus. And do you know what the craziest thing is? They're like the same beer, and they're just like amber saison-ish, like just amber beers.
Yeah.
I agree.
But
it's so
Spotted
crazy.
Cow thing is funny to me because I have a friend from up there, and she got, like, her parents sent some down like a while back.
Oh, people go crazy for it, and I'm like, dude, they got like 30 other beers I'd rather drink.
And I was like, I mean, it's good, but like I've had 100 beers that taste just like this.
I'm gonna say Spotted Cow couldn't do it today. Like if they're like, oh, we're gonna roll Spotted Cow now, like nationally, people would be like, whatever. Like, I mean, it's a good beer.
I have 12 breweries within 50 miles of me that make stuff that tastes just like this.
But if they did roll it out nationally, it would sell everywhere because it's called Spotted Cow, and it has created this thing.
But also, they don't care.
It's a tsunami.
No, they don't.
They don't need to go anywhere but where they are at.
They're not gonna.
Well, and at a certain point, you're like, well, the hype, it works in their benefit because people go, if they're passing through that area, they're there, they'll check it. They'll check them out because they've heard of it.
Oh, absolutely.
I live a few hours from there. I've never been there. Now. I would love to.
It's so hard to gauge. Like, it's so hard to gauge, like, with the way, like is like things are so crazy to me now in the beer industry, as far as like what people are drinking and what breweries are putting out. It's like, is that hype that
justified?
Because when I was homebrewing and, like, early on, like, there was a ton of hype around New Glarus, like a ton of hype. Is that hype still there? Like, they do. I mean, I assume they do awesome still, because
they're like, dude, they make the 12th most craft beer in the country, and they distribute it in one state.
In one state. That's what I'm saying. That's what.
But like, let's preface that by saying that state also has the highest incidence of DUIs and drunk driving. So
it's a special state. It's a special state.
It is. Like, I think if we ever see New Glarus on the shelf in Florida, I think that's like, oh shit, what's going on at New Glarus?
Yeah.
Like,
they must be They
like,
either sold out or they
need to
are
sell
in
some beer.
financial trouble.
Yeah. But
Okay.
man,
Yeah.
I mean, it is interesting. I personally think that New Glarus, the hype would stand up, but it wouldn't necessarily be because of Spotted Cow. I mean, they do, they make fantastic beers across the board, but they don't have any reason to do it. So I don't think that they will. And like you said, if they do, you'd be like, huh, why are they doing that? I mean, probably because they sold to Miller, and then same thing Miller did with
AB
Goose Island,
InBev
right?
or
sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
But so was the New Belgium, was the Fat Tire clone, did you get a recipe off the internet, or did you just kind of do your own thing?
Nah, I got a recipe off the internet.
Yeah.
I was like,
There's a bunch of them.
I was like, man, I want to homebrew. I want to brew some beer. Cause the beer thing comes in from, when I was actively, like really actively playing in bands and touring around the country. When I started drinking, for some reason when I would go to a place, I'd be like, hey, is there it just kind of dawned on me. Like I was like, hey, is there a local, is there a small brewery around here that makes do you have anything local on tap? Like, I think I was at a show. I can't remember exactly who introduced me, but it was early on. I was we're on tour somewhere, and oh, you gotta have this beer. This beer is awesome. Like, you can only get it here because the brewery is 5 minutes up the road. And I was like, oh, well, that's kind of cool. And that just kind of stuck with me. So when I was I'd be anywhere in the country, playing a show, and I'd be like, oh, here's your beer tickets. You get 5 free beers for the night. I'm like, okay. It's do you have anything that's local that's made around here? And people would, and I mean, we would play all sorts of places, dive bars, just all pizza restaurants. Yeah, actually we have this and this. This is brewed in this city. I'm like, let me have that. And I was just like, man, this is so cool. And then I got home from touring one time, and my girlfriend at the time, who's now my wife, I was like, man, I want to brew beer. It seems so cool. I was like, you can order these kits online and brew beer. And she's like, really? I'm like, yeah. And I was like, dude, it seems so cool. And then I think for my birthday or for Christmas, she got me. She's like, where? She's like, what website do you go to if you want to do something like that? And I was like, oh, there's this place and this place and this place. And I think, what is the place called? The very first place I ordered beer ingredients from was, I think it's called Midwestern Supplies.
Midwestern Brew Supply or something.
Yeah, that was the very
I've gotten stuff from there.
yeah, that was I was like, that was the place that she ordered from. And she got me a homebrewing kit, and I brewed it, and it was the best fucking beer I've ever tasted, because I was like, I did this.
Yours.
And it was and because the first time you do something like that, you follow the instructions to a T.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do it exactly.
You don't deviate.
Yeah,
You're just hold on. Let me recheck this.
Yeah.
And it works.
I don't want to mess this up at all. And it was awesome. And I gave it to friends, and it was oh, look at this beer. I made beer. And then it just snowballed from there, man.
Cool. Awesome. So you had kind of the traditional, big, turkey pot kind of boiling system, and the 5-gallon buckets from Home Depot type of you had all that kind of stuff going on.
Yeah. The first 3 beers that I brewed were extract. You do a little steeping malt, but then
that's I feel where everybody starts. You don't want to start with just full malt brewing. Give me some extract and let me kind of.
Yeah. I didn't know any better. I was like, I don't know, extract. You buy that's how you do it. And then but by the time I was after the first batch, I was like, is there a more advanced version of this? And then I'm
already
it was instant. It was instant. I was like, oh, and I talked my wife's ear off about it. I was like, actually, you can go a step further, and you can do all grain. You can mix all the grains. You do it all yourself. And she's like, Cool, dude. That's awesome.
Go do whatever, or just stop talking to me about it.
Please shut up about beer. Oh my God.
So in the home brewing, did you start to like mess with the kind of recipes and like do your own thing during that phase? I mean, obviously during that phase, if you did that for 7 years, you started doing your own stuff. But how long did it take before you like moved into either like heavily modifying like a recipe you were looking at, or just like kind of trying to wholesale come up with your own?
3 months.
Yeah.
Like 3 months, I was like, what do I got to do?
I can do this outside of this.
Yeah. I was like, what can I do? How do I like make it my own? Like I brewed 3 extract batches, and it was like one, it was like a Fat Tire clone. One was a porter, and then something else. And
like
I was like,
pale ale or something.
Probably so. And then I was like, how do I make it my own? And then I just started ordering ingredients. Like I ordered a book, and I like read this book like cover to cover like 12 times probably. Like, ooh, I want to like, 'cause I'm kind of like an all or nothing person. Like I want to know how to do this. And then I think batch 4 was all grain, 5-gallon all grain recipe that I came up with myself. And from there it was just like, let's do this. And it was just steamrolling it.
That's cool.
That's great.
I mean, and I feel like that, like once any home brewer reaches a certain point, they're gonna like kind of follow that same path. Some faster, some slower, probably, I'm sure, but that's like kind of like the evolutionary chart of
absolutely
home brewing. Just wait, what can I do? Like now that I know these flavors, let's see what I can. I mean, it's just like cooking.
Yeah.
It's like, all right, I already know what flavors I like. Let me just go ahead and try something else different.
And I mean, I was like it was like I did everything. I was like, what can make it better? What can how can I make I want it, because the first 10 or 12 batches, I'd say probably like 10 or 12 batches, there's this what I will today call, oh, it's got this homebrew flavor. It's got it tastes like a homebrew. Like you're like something's a little
it's good,
off.
but something's a little bit different.
Yeah. And I was like, how do I
little malty, little yeasty, little
a little bit unfiltered.
It's kind of chunky, and I was like, how do I want to make beer that I want to and my whole thing was I would I go to the store and buy a beer and be I was like, I want to make a beer that tastes like this. All my friends and I ended up working at the home brew shop. I ended up getting a job at the home brew shop. And, we were all early on in our brewing, a couple of years deep probably. But, I was like, none of us yet. Now everybody either works at a brewery or owns a brewery. all the guys that I worked with, except for one, actually, all the guys that I worked with at the home brew shop either own a brewery or work at a brewery. But none of us were, we weren't making stellar beer yet. I know that we thought it was good then, but I would definitely say that
objectively looking back.
Yes. What I always wanted was to brew a beer that tasted like something that you could buy off the shelf. That was my goal. That was my goal. I was like, if somebody can be like, oh yeah, I mean, it's pretty good. You brewed it. It's pretty good for you brewing it. I didn't want that. I wanted someone to be like, oh man, that tastes just like I bought it. That tastes like you buy it from the store. And when you're a home brewer, and I don't know if any home brewers listen to this, but it's something that happens. People, can you curse on this?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
People blow smoke so far up your fucking ass that people go and open breweries, and you're like, dude, you had no business opening a fucking brewery.
Yeah.
And it's just
it wasn't that good.
Yeah, and it's just the thing. And I could tell early on, I'd be like, oh, you're fucking blowing smoke right now. Stop. Let's not like be brutally honest. Like that's what I want.
Yeah.
Like because I wanted to be good at it. And
But
I'm
it's
not.
the only way you're going to improve
it's hard
is to
back
get
then.
actual.
Yeah, you
But-
bullshitting me, you not being honest isn't going to help me get better. So,
but it's also tougher back then because I don't honestly. A lot of them probably didn't know. It just tasted different than the fucking Miller Lite they bought, and so they were like, "God, this is awesome," and they wouldn't. I wouldn't have. I mean, I remember the first time I had beer at 612. I thought it was really good. I realized a year later, I was like, shoot, that wasn't.
But also,
that wasn't very good. Damn. But I thought because it was like, God, that tastes like orange chips, and that was delicious. Oops.
But with that said, now pointing at the camera, there's no excuse. Don't blow smoke up your friends' asses when they
absolutely don't.
It's 2021. There is a better way, and they should know the truth so they can improve.
But the problem is, I could show you a beer right now that is made in a can with the label. It looks like somebody blew it out of their nose, and snot bubbles are on top. And I kid you not, it looked just like that, and people are putting it on the gram. So I mean, so in one sense, you're right. On the other hand, dude, I don't know.
I'm just saying.
Well,
you can make great beer if your friends are willing to tell you the truth.
Yeah, right. Like just tell the truth. And just like we're not going to name names, but that photo that you shared with me the other day, like I'm willing to put money on it that like the people who brewed that beer like probably make good beer. They probably know how to make good beer. Yeah. But like right now, I'm like I don't really care. Like I'll like I'm not talking shit about anybody, but I also don't care, and I'll just kind of call it like it is because like I have a lot of friends that like or acquaintances like that maybe like partake in this kind of brewing. We're caught in this kind of like circle of like not circle. We're caught in this cycle of I see a lot of people posting photos on the gram of beer, and I find myself going, what the fuck is that? A lot of the time, man. And it's the thing is, some of these places I know that they're good brewers, and and I know they're good. I know they make good beer, but I'm like, dude, what is that? What is that, dude? Like, what is that? And a lot of it's driven by consumers, and it's peaks and valleys, man. I've been to GABF a bunch, and
which is awesome, by the way, if you haven't gone.
GABF's incredible, and like I said, I'm not talking shit because I'll tell this to anybody's face. Like there are some years you go to GABF and there is like phenomenal beer all over the place. You're like, damn, dude, this is all really good beer. Fast forward 2 or 3 years, go to GABF and you're like, there's a lot of shitty beer here.
Yeah.
You're like, what? Like what? And it's just like it's just cycles.
There's an ebb and flow to like some of these like larger, especially like at the size of GABF, which for the people that like beer but aren't like super into it yet, it's the Great American Beer Festival. It's held out in Colorado. It's a lot of fun. It's multiple days. I've gone to it once, and I'm planning to go multiple times from here on out. But the issue is that like, I mean, anyone can go in there and enter stuff and try to follow the trends. But what I've found with most of the trend following is that there's kind of like this timeline of a trend. And if you get towards the end of a trend, say like 3/4, this is not like scientific by any means, but like there's a certain point in a trend where people are just knocking it off and they're adding nothing to it, and they're just trying to make a quick buck off of it.
Well, it's
like any other industry.
It's a copy of a copy of a copy of a copy.
Yeah.
Like the more times you copy that mixtape, the shittier it sounds.
Yeah.
Like, and it's just
and those copies of copies of copies of copies of copies are going to show up at some point in these large national beer festivals, international even, like, and that's just like the nature of the beast. So, but the best thing about beer festivals, and this is what I had to learn, it took me a long time to learn, even at smaller beer festivals, is if I don't like something, I can just dump that shit out. It
Yeah,
doesn't
don't drink
matter.
it. I just
Like,
don't drink it.
like I maybe won't do it right in front of the like brewers. Now, if it's a beer festival where they don't have like the actual brewers pouring and it's just some random company they hired, I'll just dump it out in front of them. But if it's the other ones, I'll be like, go around the block, dump it out. I'm just like,
dump it in front of me, and then tell me why you dumped it. Tell me why you didn't like it.
But
and we're totally cool.
But sometimes it's tough because
if
when
you
you're
tell me
drunk
because
at a beer
it's not
festival, it's tough to explain exactly why you don't like something without coming off as a drunk asshole. And I have no problems. I've talked with plenty of brewers at beer festivals, like, you're very close, or this was way off the mark for me, and I explained why. But like, the deeper I get into a beer festival, the less likely I am to like.
But those are great
reasons, because
those always end up being great conversations. Like,
oh, I agree. And I've met so many brewers and owners of breweries at beer festivals and had great conversations with after telling them I didn't like a specific beer.
Yeah,
so
absolutely. But if you tell me you dumped it because it's not fucking electric neon blue, you fucking we're done.
It doesn't taste like fruit punch Kool-Aid that was just dumped into the water. How dare you?
Hey, do you guys have a sour on tap? Yeah, we do right here. Like, there's no fruit in it.
Oh, goddamn, dude!
Come on.
All right. I'll go on and on with like beer tropes all day if you let me.
It didn't taste like Ecto Cooler. I didn't want it.
Yeah. We're gonna ask you. Well, what do you want to, Tilly? What did you want to ask him next?
I was gonna ask. So, like, when you're like getting into a new beer, not necessarily style, but when you're making a beer within a known style, like, how do you develop a beer that's unique but also familiar? Like, how do you like go from conception to like the brewing and fermenting and getting it out of that into like kegs or bottles or whatever you're trying to do, like with the final distribution? But how do you do that? Like,
as far as like the inception of the beer itself?
Yeah, like, so you can say like, we want to make a hazy IPA, but how do you go into it and approach like the flavors to make something that's unique-ish? Because but you want it to be familiar enough to the style that people are going to be like, yeah, I like this hazy, or I don't like it, whatever the case may be.
I mean, that's kind of like the $1 million question. For me personally, I kind of approach it as an art. And then first and foremost, I think before I get into the artistic side of it, first and foremost, you have to have an idea that sounds exciting to yourself. You know, if Matthew walks around the corner one day and he's like, hey man, let's brew a Hefeweizen. I'm going to tell him to get the fuck out of my face. Like, just because like it's nothing against Hefeweizens, but like, it's just not, there's no Hefeweizen I've ever had
that emotion in you.
There's no Hefeweizen I've ever had that I'm like, I want to make it that it's just for me, it's not, it just,
one of the first 10 beers we had on tap, brother. One of the first 10.
Yeah, I know. I know.
Oh yeah, but you feel that way about wheat beers in general, and then we also have to play we own a business game, and we know what people drink, and
that's the thing. I was coming to that.
Yeah.
You know, I haven't brewed a Hefeweizen in over a year and a half. It was one of we opened with a Hefeweizen on tap. Have I brewed another one? No. The Hefeweizen doesn't invoke anything in me. But you know, like, say like things just kind of like, you got to brew what you like. You got to brew what you like. If you like it, someone else is gonna like it. There's there's a famous saying, I can never remember. I think no, I don't know if that's it. But what's jumping into my mind is there's a kink for everything. But
that's fine.
you know what I'm saying? Like, if you like it, there are other people out there that are gonna like it. That's what I'm trying to get. That's what I'm trying to get at. So like, and that's important because I think if you brew something, if you brew a beer, if you make a piece of art, you make a piece of meat, whatever it is, that you don't genuinely connect with, I think the consumers of that art or whatever it is, that product, they can tell. And it's not coming off, it doesn't come off genuine. And people people don't appreciate that. People pick up on it. They're like, oh, this is like, just like
something off
about it. And that's how I approach making beers, is just like, we could do this, we could do that, we could do this, we could do that. We see a lot of it's like, for instance, we see a lot of a certain type of beer sell a lot. You're like, man, like, people are like, these guys sell a shit ton of this beer. And if I was to make that type of beer, I'd be like, I think people would pick up on it. You're like,
it doesn't care about it.
Yeah. Which then, to backtrack a little bit, like, you end up getting in that cycle of a copy of a copy of a copy of a copy.
Yeah.
But for me, creating a beer is like, it kind of stems from like artistic vision and experience of just working with like the ingredients and the tools that I have to work with. Well,
you guys hear that?
Yeah.
Is that it?
Still hear it?
Is that at neither one of your places?
It's not my house.
I think it's my wife's Peloton.
Matt's.
Oh wow. Something about hip hop.
Hold on one second.
But yeah, I get what you're saying, because like I watch a lot of cooking shows, like say whatever you want about me, like Top Chef, Master Chef, whatever, and the judges will always mention something about the, like, it feels like you could say whatever you want about putting love into food or whatever, but
sure.
Like when you truly care about something, you put a lot more effort into it, even if it's like kind of like subliminal effort.
Yeah, absolutely.
Being put into it. And so when you truly care about something, like as far as food, or obviously in this case, beer, that's going to come out in the flavor, because you're going to care so much more about the entire process involved, and all of that's going to come through in the final product.
Absolutely.
Especially something that takes as long as beer to go from start to finish.
Yeah. That's fucking 2 weeks of my life, man. Like,
like it's there.
It's gotta be something I care about.
Yeah. It's like you may not love this beer style either as much as others, but you're going to make it your own. And so and we've talked about it. You did that with the Hefeweizen too. It was, it was drier. It was a little lighter.
Mm-hmm.
It had an interesting bite on it, but it was really good. And
you get like some of the traditional tasting,
it was like
as well.
Yeah. I mean, it was a Hefeweizen, recipe. It was created just
modified.
A little bit different. It's like, okay, but if I got to do this, then I'm going to do it this way.
I got to do it this way. Like,
Yeah.
That's
a level, and even if you don't love it, honestly, it's a level of care.
Yeah.
And honestly, I'd say that's kind of why craft beer in the United States has gotten where it's gotten. There's been a lot of people that have tasted a lot of like different beers and been like, I like it, but I don't love it. So let me try to love it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then they've gone from there. And that's why like I feel like the United States, like back when I first started drinking, what would that have been, like 2003, 2004, like when I became of age. I first started drinking when I became of age. By the way. Possibly true, possibly not. That's nobody's business but my own. But
doesn't matter. Yeah.
But like the kind of like international like trope or the parody of it was that United States beer sucked because of the macro beers that we had that were dominating like the world market even to this day, but also then. But like since then, and there were even like pioneers in the craft beer industry happening back then, going as far back into the 80s.
Oh yeah.
But they just didn't have that mainstream kind of recognition. But what they did was take what people knew and stretch it into something just a little bit different, and then just a little bit different. Now we're in this world where I feel like the United States, it's almost a little bit too progressive in beer flavors to an extent. Like we do some really weird things with beer in this country that possibly shouldn't happen, but they are happening. But that's all part of like the creative and like kind of artistic process that you mentioned of making something different. And there's something out there for everybody. And I truly believe that when someone tells me that they don't like beer now, and I just, without any snobbishness involved, I just want to be like, no, you just haven't had the right beer yet. And I'm like willing to help anyone try to find a beer that they'd like.
I always accept that challenge because
I failed yesterday. First time I can remember. It was incredible.
In this day and age, you can find a beer for somebody.
Yeah.
Like even if it doesn't taste like beer.
There's so many flavor profiles out there that it's almost impossible. Like my wife never drank beer until about 2 years ago. And I started bringing back some of these sours that were, especially the First Magnitude saltwater intrusion gozes. And then some of the other treatments of that. And then like from there, like now she'll take a taste of Elias hazy, trying to block off the hazy double IPA. She'll try it and she'll be like, yeah, it's good, but I wouldn't drink a whole thing of it, but you know, it's good. Here's why. And that's good. That's great.
Also, I think it's pretty,
you don't have to like everything. Just try it and see that.
I think it's pretty clear that folks here in the United States don't exactly eat what they're probably supposed to based on biology and also drink. And so it's only natural that you get 9,000 breweries and a whole bunch of those are going to deviate from what is traditional. And you end up with fucking Kool-Aid and Gatorade and beer, and people love it because people are like, that's what they buy. That's what they go to the stores and drink. And
I mean, it's a natural progression. It's a natural progression.
It's like rap. You listen to rap music and it's auto-tune and the same beat, every single one. And it used to not be like that.
Yeah. All right. Well, move on to that. Music was mentioned. So moving beyond beer, just to close that out on a different kind of note, like if you could only listen to one band and then maybe we'll expand it to like a specific subgenre of music. Like you can't just say rock. You can't just say rock, but like a specific.
I already know that one.
Okay, just one band.
If you had to go to fucking island for
like if you had to go to
one band,
Goody Music back in the early to late 90s and pick one band, what's going to be on your mixtape rotation?
You can definitely have, it's the whole, you got to think about it like it's the whole anthology, right? So but it's got to be just one.
Oof. I always hate these questions.
What did you play?
Or one artist?
One artist. It can be a band or artist.
One artist?
And then you can even be an artist that was in a band and then left and went and
totally.
I feel like that's acceptable.
Yeah.
What kind of music did you play when you were doing touring stuff?
I played, rock music.
What
punk-
kind of rock music?
Punk rock music.
Okay, perfect.
If I had to pick one, okay, give me the parameters. This is the one artist.
Very
I'm gonna
narrow.
Listen to
There's
for
an
the rest.
artist, band artist. It could be
artist
a
or
solo
band.
artist who came out of band, and you can like kind of stretch that out a little bit. But
I would probably pick right now. I would pick anything by the artist Ozzy Osbourne.
okay,
Is this a lot? See, that's the other thing. Is this a lot of music?
You
So
get a
that
lot-
helps
you get a
on
lot.
the island when you're by yourself for a long time.
Well, you got all of Ozzy Osbourne. You got all of Black Sabbath.
yeah,
Then you got, there's some other things out there.
that he did. Yeah.
Or
That's true.
oh
That's
man,
true.
oh that's really tough. But I would, right now I would say say Ozzy Osbourne. But I'm maybe
I
kind
don't
of
think
vast.
you can go wrong with that.
But I'm maybe kind of teetering with anything involving the artist Sting also.
Also good. But
I like too
Interesting.
much I like too much music. It's
I
such
know,
a hard
that's why
question.
that's why Matt chose this question, because
Yeah,
he
like-
knew it would be tough for you.
Like it's real hard. It's real hard. Like
Matt was like, let's not make it easy.
it's
On
a
the-
I could
Yeah.
The beer questions, those are easy.
I could contemplate
Now.
for days on this.
People have asked me the same question, like about rap music, and like that begins to be really hard for same reasons. And a lot of me comes back to Lil Wayne only because of how many fucking songs he has made
He's been on
that are in the universe. And I'm like,
That
dude, I'll
he's
never run out of
featured
music
in.
to listen to.
That he's
True.
featured in. He's just
It's true.
featured
Does it-
in a song and
Oh, dude, yeah, he's done a million mixtape, and so you're thinking about it like quality is obviously important, but then you got to
Longevity.
think about breadth of music
you got to
too.
get
and-
longevity in there. I mean, there's a reason some guys make it into the NFL Hall of Fame, even though they've not maybe had the individual year success that some other guys
Sure.
don't make it in because they had injury. So you gotta take longevity into it for sure.
I mean, Ozzy's what are you gonna?
yeah,
you
Ozzy,
can't
I mean, he's
I mean,
still
you can't-
around.
You can't go wrong.
At this point, I'm wondering if he's even gonna die at some point.
I don't know. Hopefully not.
Maybe that little, that
It's an
little.
icon.
He's probably built up some good immunity from that little stunt on the stage.
True.
Dude,
All right. So Joe, last question.
go for it.
When you're not drinking beer and you're not going through the process of like developing a beer and tasting it along the way, what's your go-to drink?
Oof, water.
Outside of water and like water, Gatorade, sodas, whatever. Like, do you drink any other, like, do you get ideas off of other alcohols that you've been drinking, or do you just like beer? And just
I do. Well, to answer the ideas off of other beverages, we started and we're gonna go back to it because I still think it's a great idea. We kind of started doing cocktail themed milkshake IPAs, and they went over pretty damn well. The two that we did.
milkshake IPAs, another banging craft beer trend. If you don't know,
I don't. Is it? I feel like it was, and now it's not. But it's kind of
Yeah,
like
it goes in and out. It goes in.
It's
and out.
hard
Like,
to-
I've
it's
seen it,
hard to
like,
sell that
it's kind
beer.
of on like a constant like wave pattern, up down,
Yeah.
up down, up down, up down. But
It's like-
anyway,
I like it. I feel like they're cool, but also I'm like,
It's,
But it's
it's
got-
it's
but
hard beer
definitely
to sell.
some
but it's
very
got the
bad
whole
ones
it's got the whole lactose thing going on.
with lactose.
Yeah,
In case you missed the beginning of.
with the sugar of milk. But so I get to an extent I'm inspired by other beverages. I mean just other flavor cooking, but I do drink a lot of CBD seltzer. right now. You know that
I don't think I've actually had any of those.
that we make. We make a peach and a pomegranate.
I'm gonna have Matt send me some.
It's really good. I hate how it bums me out how good it is because I'm like, damn, it's just really good. I just really enjoy the CBD aspect of it. But I do. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, I think Matt said that Top had the CBD seltzer.
No, P&G.
P&G has the CBD seltzer. Sorry,
P&G
we
has the CBD.
talked about both today. So yeah, P&G. I'm gonna have to check it out.
They have peach and pomegranate. I do really like a bourbon.
Yeah,
you know,
me too.
you know, I can't. It's kind of my if I'm gonna drink alcohol and it's not a beer, it's gonna be
It's
a
your
bourbon.
default go-to.
Yeah, it's gonna be a bourbon, man.
That's usually my go-to as well. So it's good to see. I drink some Japanese whiskeys also.
Okay.
Which are, I mean, they're just whiskeys. They're just a lot more mild on the barrel. But while you're here, anyone that's listening, check out Bourbon on a Budget. It's also on the same Big Three Roll-Up network that we're on. And they talk about bourbons that are not necessarily the top echelon ones, but the ones that you can get for 20, 30, 40 bucks.
There are
good
so
values.
There are so many good ones.
Yeah.
There
And you don't have to
like,
spend a ton to get good bourbon.
Not at all. No longer. Like I've done that. Like I got fascinated and fixated on that research myself a while back.
Mm-hmm.
And there are so many good bourbons that don't cost an insane amount of money. And some that I like, some that I like more than the ones that are
more than some of the more expensive ones.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the nice thing about bourbon is, you know, they're all made with the same basic like ratio of ingredients, because that's how you get to be called a bourbon. And so the aging and all that comes into account. But, you know, when it comes down to flavor, you can find a lot of great bourbons that aren't running you 75, 85, 100 plus, $200, $300 a bottle.
I would drink I mean, there's a bunch of them out there that you find. I like finding those value deals. I mean, whatever the spirit or the wine or whatever, I love finding those value deals. Yeah. You could blind taste that next to something else that's, you know, significantly more expensive and be like, I bet you can't tell which one costs more money.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wouldn't even know if no one told you.
No, rum is kind of like that too here in Florida, because a good sipping rum is not that expensive. I mean, a good bourbon or scotch is way more expensive than a nice sipping rum. That's
for sure.
I love it. We end a beer podcast on bourbon and
rum.
Spirits.
Can't go wrong.
Great.
There you go.
Which we'll have to get into. We'll have to have Joe on again, and we'll talk about some bourbon barrel aged stuff. But
let's do it.
Yeah. But for now, let's.
Bourbon's the best thing to happen to beer in a long time.
Yeah, but for now, we're gonna call it quits, because if you're listening at this point, you're probably ready for it to end. But we appreciate all of you tuning in and listening. And of course, give us a like, follow, retweet, whatever we're on. This is going to be on, obviously, audio podcast sites as well as YouTube. Hit up Bay Cannon. They make great stuff. I've had a lot of them over just like the past few trips. Make some great beer, and of course, as always, let us know what you think and what you want us to cover next.
Yeah, thank you guys. Thank you, Joe. Appreciate it, man.
Thank you.
You guys get out there and get that Elias, and
social media.
Me?
Yeah.
My only social media is the gram at Megadeth Starman.
Yep. Hit them up. Go try the Bay Cannon beer, and then hit them up on the gram and let them know what you think.
All right. Thanks, guys. We'll catch you soon.
Later.
Cheers.
Cheers.